Moving over to the senior circuit in the National League East, I have the Washington Nationals coming in 5th place. This is a team that's moving in the right direction. They have a lot of good prospects. They've been just stockpiling prospects ever since they won that World Series back in 2019 when the world was a very different place, of course. But I like the Nationals. I like the direction they're going in. I could definitely see them finishing in 4th place, but I still think they're a couple of years away. It breaks my heart to have the Miami Marlins this low in the standings, but I gotta do it. They don't have Sandy Alcantara this year. He went down with an injury. It's an extremely sad situation. I was very high on the Marlins last year. They were my dark horse pick to make the playoffs, and lo and behold, they did it. It was unbelievable. I was very excited about them. I loved watching Luis Arias play last year. He was flirting with 400 all the way up to the All-Star break last year. It's so great to see a guy who hits for average. I love that. It reminds me of the days of Tony Gwynn and Wade Boggs and those cats in the 80s and 90s. So I'm a big fan of Arias. Jazz Chisholm's a lot of fun to watch, but I just don't think this team's going to have the pitching depth to compete with those top 2 teams in this division, let alone even a wild card at this point. You just can't lose your ace and expect you're just going to bounce back. We'll see what happens. I don't think they're going to be as bad as a lot of people think they are. I think they're definitely finishing ahead of the Nationals, but they're definitely probably going to come in 4th place in this division. Coming in 3rd place, I have the New York Mets finishing a couple of games ahead of the Marlins in the NL East. Mets kind of a strange team. Last couple of years, they were all in trying to compete with a lot of older veteran guys like Verlander and Scherzer, and then they kind of like, I don't know, let's pump the brakes a little bit. You got to crawl before you can walk. They traded some of those veteran guys away. Now I think the Mets, they're kind of taking a little bit of a smarter strategy. They're trying to stockpile some prospects, all the while probably waiting for this next free agency period where they can go out and get free agents, but free agents that are a little bit younger. They're not going with the older free agents. They tried to get Yamamoto this offseason. I think that they'll try to get guys that are like late 20s, early 30s. The over 31, 32 crowd, they're going to try to avoid that. I think that's a good strategy. I think they'll be right back in the mix next year. Coming in 2nd place, I have the Philadelphia Phillies. But does it really matter if I'm picking these guys to finish in 2nd place? Because when they get into the playoffs, they always beat the Braves, who always end up finishing in 1st place. So does it really matter at this point? This is a good team. This is a World Series caliber team. They're bringing basically the same team as they had back last year. They re-signed Nola. They re-signed Wheeler. This is a solid team. Bryce Harper will be healthy the entire season. He's going to play first base for the most part. He can DH from time to time too. They're a World Series contender. I don't think they quite have the balanced team to compete the entire season with the Braves. When they get into the playoffs, it's a different story. Now, coming in 1st place in this division, I have the Atlanta Braves. I had the Atlanta Braves to win the World Series last year when I made this video. It didn't happen. Of course, they lost to the aforementioned Phillies for the 2nd consecutive year. But they're back again this year. Chris Sale is in the already great rotation. They got a real solid bullpen, one of the best offenses in baseball. Quite possibly the Braves are the most well-balanced team in all of baseball. They are just in the top 2 or 3 in every category. Great manager, just a well-run organization, and they are going to win this division by a good 6-7 games. NL Central is kind of an interesting division because I don't think any of these teams have a legitimate shot to win the World Series or even get to the World Series for that matter. Having said that, every team in this division is kind of even. You know, they're all kind of mediocre. They all kind of at different spots. Some of them are kind of at the start of rebuilding. Some of them are rebuilding and maybe close to competing and maybe competing at a high level. So everybody's kind of on an even playing surface. But, you know, you got to pick a team to finish last. You got to pick a team to finish first. And I think the team that's going to finish in 5th place in this division is going to be the Milwaukee Brewers. It kills me to have the Brewers this low because 2 years ago, I was so high on this team, I picked them to win the World Series in this very same video because they had that great starting pitching staff. But Corbin Burns has left to go to the Baltimore Orioles via trade. Woodruff's going to be out the entire season. And I've just never been super high on the offense of this team. Much like the Houston Astros, it's probably not very smart to have the St. Louis Cardinals finishing this low in this division. But this team kind of scares me a little bit, and again, not in a good way. Paul Goldschmidt did not look particularly good the second half of last year. Nolan Arenado is starting to get a little bit older. He still had a great year last year, but at some point he's going to start to slow down. They brought in some veteran pitchers, but a lot of these guys might be a little bit past their prime. It might be a good idea for St. Louis maybe to become trade deadline sellers. Start selling off some of these veteran guys to contending teams and start stockpiling prospects again. The Cardinals are one of the greatest, one of the most well-run organizations, not only in baseball but in all of sports. But I think they're in for maybe a little bit of a long year. Again, it's a wide open division. I could see them winning this division, and I can see them finishing in dead last. Ladies and gentlemen, I wanted so badly to pick the Pittsburgh Pirates to win the National League Central this year. I almost did it, but I didn't quite have the cojones to do it, unfortunately. Look, this is a good young team. They're on the upswing. They actually spent some money this offseason. Not on anybody that you've heard of, but they did spend some money, so that was good to see. But good times are ahead for the Pirates. They are 1 or 2 years away from all this young talent they have to develop and to be good again, hopefully. This is a franchise I want so badly to see back in the playoffs and to make a good long run. Pittsburgh's a great sports town. The Pirates have a very rich history throughout Major League Baseball previous to 1992. But when they lost that series to the Atlanta Braves back in 92, all hell broke loose, and this franchise has just been the worst run franchise in all of baseball. It's been a sad situation. But good times are ahead, Pittsburgh. Just hang in there. Coming in second place, I have the Chicago Cubs. The Cubs went out this offseason, re-signed Cody Bellinger to a deal, kind of waited it out and got the deal that they were comfortable with. I mean, Bellinger is an enigma. He's a very strange individual. You know, he had those last 2 or 3 years with the Dodgers. This guy was on the verge of being sent back down to AAA. He came back strong for the Cubbies last year. They're hoping for another big year of him. They've made some key additions in the offseason. The pitching staff's a little bit better. They've improved the bullpen a little bit. Didn't spend as much as I thought they would. They even took a swing at Ohtani, but missed. I'm telling you, the Cubs are on the upswing, much like Pittsburgh. They are on the upswing. There's about 2 or 3 teams that are beginning to improve a little bit, and this is one of them. Again, no clear-cut favorite in the National League Central. I don't think any of these teams have particularly great starting pitching staffs. I think some of these staffs could be good in the next couple of years. But a lot of them are, you got 2 or 3 teams that are young. You got a couple of teams that are older and kind of aging out a little bit. But I think the Reds have the right balance of a lineup and youthful energy where they're going to take this division. It's going to be tight. I can see the Reds finishing in 5th place. But I like the energy on this team. I like the offense a lot. They look good for most of last year. And I think they're going to surprise some people. You know, this was a team 3 or 4 years ago that a lot of people were picking to win this division, and that they were going to make a deep run in the playoffs. Then they took a couple of steps back and started to rebuild, and here they are. They rebuilt, and they're right back in the hunt again. And I think they are going to pull it out, and they're going to win the National League Central. Heading out to the National League West, I made this analogy last year when I made this video, but it is pertinent once again this year. You guys ever been on the bumper cars? You go to the county fair and they have the bumper cars, or if you live next to a beach, they have the bumper cars. It's a great deal of fun. You can go out there and just really get into your road rage and smash into other cars. It's a lot of fun if you haven't done it. I highly recommend it. But when you go on the bumper cars, there's always one kid that's off in the corner somewhere. He's usually like 6 or 7 years old. He doesn't quite get how the bumper cars operate. He's going back and forth with the gas and the brake, and he just can't figure it out. Everybody else is out having a good time, bumping into people, and this kid is off in the corner. He just can't figure it out. This kid is the perfect microcosm for the Colorado Rockies, because no matter who the Rockies get, it doesn't matter if it's a position player, if it's a pitcher, this team can never escape 4th or 5th place. They're always just right there, and they're usually in 5th place here these last few years, and this team's got no chance. If the Colorado Rockies win the National League West this season in 2024, I will make a video on this channel and I will sing Italian opera in the Princess Leia gold bikini. Okay, that's how sure I am that this team will not win this division. The Colorado Rockies are definitely going to finish in 5th place. I don't know what the solution for this team is at this point. Maybe you just bulldoze Coors Field, maybe make a retractable roof, maybe just a closed dome, have the fences as far back as is humanly possible, and try to finally acquire some pitchers, okay? No pitcher wants to pitch at Coors Field. I don't know how the hell this team ever even made it to a World Series in 2007. It's one of the great mysteries of our time. Now, the National League West is very similar to the American League East, okay? Because I think the teams 2 through 4 are all evenly matched. It could go either way. I could see them being like a 1 or 2 game separation when we get to game 162. But I think ultimately the Giants, unfortunately, are going to finish in 4th place. This team might make a wild card and finish in 4th place. This could conceivably happen if, let's say, the Braves or the Phillies, one of those teams has a significant amount of injuries. You can have 4 teams out of this division make the playoffs. That is very possible. But I think the Giants are going to finish in 4th place. They don't quite have the offense. I just don't see it. I like the Snell deal. I really do. I was high on Blake Snell. I know a lot of people don't like that he goes 5 innings, but he's still one of the best. For those 5 innings, he's going to always pitch at a Cy Young caliber. I mean, the guy won a Cy Young last year, so of course he's going to pitch at a Cy Young caliber. This is a good starting rotation. They got a decent bullpen. I just think they're a little bit light in the offensive category, unfortunately. Coming in 3rd place, I got the defending National League champion Arizona Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks came out of nowhere last year along with the Texas Rangers and both appeared in the World Series. Look, I think the Diamondbacks are definitely going to compete for a wild card this year. I don't think they're quite ready to compete with the top team in this division or maybe even the team that's going to be in 2nd place. But I think this is going to be a 3-way dogfight for the 2nd spot between the Padres, the Diamondbacks, and the Giants. It's going to be a lot of fun to see these teams battle it out. The Diamondbacks are going to be good again this year without question. They're not going anywhere. They got a great that way. They were not a flash in the pan last year. You know, a lot of people are down on the San Diego Padres, but I think the Padres are going to have a really nice season this year. I think they're going to finish in 2nd place. They have a great offense. And, you know, the pitching staff, you know, they've lost a little bit not having Snell this year, of course, but they added Dylan Cease. He's a great pitcher. They still have Hugh Darvish, still have Joe Musgrove. The bullpen, I would like to see them maybe add a piece at the trade deadline for that bullpen. But overall, I think they got a very well-balanced team. I would not sleep on these guys. They're their beloved owner, Peter Seidler, I think his name was. He passed away in the offseason. So they're going to have a lot to play for. It's going to be a very emotional season. And I think the Padres are going to definitely get one of those wild card spots. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if it wasn't for copyright issues on YouTube, this would be the time in the video we'd be playing the Darth Vader entrance music because we have a new evil empire in Major League Baseball. And we really have for the past 10 years or so now. It is the Los Angeles Dodgers. Look, you got to give the devil their due. The Dodgers had a great offseason. They added Tyler Glasnow. This guy might end up winning the Cy Young if he can stay healthy for an entire season. They got Yamamoto from Japan. He was the hot shot pitcher from Japan. We'll see how he does. He hasn't looked very good in spring training, but I think eventually after this guy works out some kinks, it might even take this guy a year to really kind of get his sea legs in the major leagues. Japan is kind of a weird thing because it's kind of the competition there is kind of a cross between, from what I understand, like AAA and the major leagues. If you had a division between AAA and the major leagues, that would be Japan. So it might take Yamamoto about a year to find his sea legs, but eventually he's probably going to be a pretty good pitcher. You're not going to give a guy that big of a contract if you're not pretty damn sure he's going to be a halfway decent pitcher. And then, of course, they got Shohei Ohtani. This one absolutely hurt my heart very much. I could have dealt with Ohtani leaving the Angels. The Angels have not been a well-run team the last few years. I get it. I get why he left. Well, why did you have to go to the Dodgers, Ohtani? That was just... that really added insult to injury. It's like your wife leaving you for the brother that you don't get along with. It was very disturbing. Seeing him in that Dodger blue is just a very disgusting sight, but be that as it may, this is a very good team. Even if Ohtani, for some reason, he gets suspended over this whole gambling craziness that's going on right now, and he misses a year, let's say, this team still could easily win the World Series with Glasnow and with Walker Buehler coming back from an injury. You know, people forget how good Walker Buehler is. Guy's a great pitcher. He could win the Cy Young again this year, so we'll see what happens. They have like two teams. I mean, Clayton Kershaw is going to be like their number 4 or 5 guy in the rotation. It's just crazy. They have an embarrassment of riches, and I heard they got like the 3rd best farm system still. It's insane. Dodgers are winning this division. They might win 125 games in the regular season. It's going to be crazy. Can they do it in the postseason, though? That's always been their Achilles heel. So my American League seeding, I have the Orioles as the 1 seed. I have the Seattle Mariners as the 2 seed. And then I have the Cleveland Guardians as the 3 seed. The first wild card team and the 4th seed will be the Houston Astros. The 5th seed and the 2nd wild card, I think, will be the New York Yankees. And the 6th seed in the final wild card spot, I think it's going to be close between the Rangers and the Rays, but I think the world champs will pull it out, and they will get that 6th seed. My National League seeding will be as follows. I have the Dodgers as the 1 seed. I have the Atlanta Braves as the 2 seed. I have the Cincinnati Reds as the 3 seed. The 4th seed will be the Philadelphia Phillies, and they'll be the first wild card. The 2nd wild card will come out of the National League West, and it will be the San Diego Padres in the 5th seed, and then the 6th seed will be the defending National League champion, Arizona Diamondbacks. So in the first American League Wild Card Series, we will have the 6th-seeded Texas Rangers going up against the Cleveland Guardians. And I'm saying the Guardians will pull an upset in this series. They will knock out the world champions in this round. In the other matchup, it's going to be a great matchup if this were to happen. You're going to have the Astros going up against the Yankees. These teams hate each other from way back in, 2017 during the cheating scandal of the Astros and the Yankees and the Astros and the Dodgers. But I think the Astros are still going to pull this out. Again, I just don't think Garrett Cole is going to be healthy towards the end of the season. And the National League wildcard matchups, we will have the 6th-seeded Arizona Diamondbacks going up against the 3rd-seeded Cincinnati Reds. And while I like the Reds in that division they're in, I don't think they're quite ready for primetime playoff baseball just yet. Maybe another year or 2 away. I think the defending National League champs, they will take them down in that series. Should be a great series, but I like Arizona in that one. In the other series, you're going to have the Philadelphia Phillies going up against the San Diego Padres. This would be a rematch of a couple of years ago in the NLCS when the Phillies knocked out the Padres. Phillies are a good team. They are a solid, well-rounded team. They got an excellent chance to make it to the World Series this year. This would be a great matchup, but I like the Phillies just a little bit more, I think. So in the first American League Division Series, you will have the number 1 seeded Baltimore Orioles going up against the Texas Rangers, the reigning World Series champions. This would be a rematch of the Division Series last year. This would be very exciting. I think Baltimore will be ready for the Rangers this year. I think Corbin Burnes will be the difference in this series. I think Baltimore, they got a year under their belt. They were young last year, but they're much more well-balanced this year. They have some experience, and I think they would take down the Texas Rangers. In the other Division Series matchup, we will have a rematch of the Division Series 2 years ago when the Astros took on the Seattle Mariners. And let me tell you something, that was people forget, that was a competitive series. I mean, the Astros swept the Mariners, but the Mariners were in all those games. Remember the 3rd game of that series? It was like a 7-hour game. It was like a 19-inning affair. Great game. That was one of the most competitive sweeps I've ever seen. And the Mariners, I think they're going to be ready for Houston this time. They gave them a run for their money a couple of years ago, and the Astros ended up winning the World Series that year. People forget about the Seattle Mariners. They were one game behind the Texas Rangers last year, that same Ranger team that won the World Series. The Mariners are stacked this year, and I think they're going to take down the Houston Astros. And over in the National League, I'm sorry, you're going to get another repeat of last year. You're going to get the number 1 seeded Dodgers against the 6th seeded Arizona Diamondbacks. And this time, I think the Dodgers, unfortunately, are going to exact revenge on the Snakes, and they will take down Arizona. Well, I guess this is going to be the repeat playoffs, because for the 3rd consecutive year, you're going to have a Phillies-Braves Division Series matchup. And I think the 3rd time will be the charm for the Atlanta Braves. I think this team is very well balanced, and they are gunning for the Phillies this year. I think this is the year they're finally going to take down Philadelphia. American League Championship Series, you're going to have a lot of tortured fan bases. One of these fan bases is going to be very happy after this series. The Seattle Mariners have never appeared in a World Series, and I think they have an excellent chance to get there this year. A great pitching staff, a little weak in the offense, and then you have the Baltimore Orioles. They have not made a World Series when they won their last one way back 41 years ago, back in 1983. That was a long time ago. Cal Ripken was on that team. And I got to be honest with you, folks, I think this is the year they're going to break through. I know a lot of people are picking the Orioles to win the American League, and I hate to be a broken record, but I think there's a good reason for that. Orioles are a very well-balanced team. I think they're a little bit more balanced than the Seattle Mariners, top to bottom. I like their offense a lot better than Seattle's. I think the Orioles take down the Seattle Mariners in 6 games. Over in the National League Championship Series, this would be a great series if we see this. These two teams matched up, in 2020 and 2021. 2020, the Dodgers won that World Series, of course, in the COVID year. And then in 2021, they had a rematch, and the Braves won that series, and they went on to win the World Series in 2021. So that was very exciting. And these two teams on paper going into the season, I think, are the 2 best teams in baseball. They truly are, and they would tear each other apart in this series. It would be good for the Orioles, because I think these two teams are just going to be, I think they're going to have a knock, and they're going to be going back and forth. It would be a very tight series, a 7-game series certainly. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I think the Dodgers starting pitching, unfortunately, would probably take down the Atlanta Braves. I hope I'm wrong. I'd be rooting for the Braves. You know I would. But I think the Dodgers, unfortunately, will take down the Braves in 7 games, and they will advance to the World Series. So, yes, my World Series prediction for 2024, I have the Baltimore Orioles going up against the Los Angeles Dodgers. This would be a rematch of the 1966 World Series where the Orioles swept the Dodgers. Dave Roberts probably has the toughest job in all of sports this year, because if the Dodgers either have to win the World Series or it's a failed season. I don't think you can say that about any other team in baseball this year. Maybe the Braves, but they certainly don't have the expectations the Dodgers do. And on the Orioles side, they're a little bit young. They obviously don't have the experience the Dodgers are, but they don't really have the expectations either. I mean, that can be a good thing from time to time. And they're in that American League East where the lights are a little bit brighter. You play the Yankees, you play the Red Sox. So Baltimore might have an easier road getting to the postseason, too, once they get into the playoffs. You know, the Dodgers are going to have to go through Atlanta. They're going to have to go through Philadelphia, possibly. Maybe Arizona. I think the National League's a little bit more stacked this year than the American League, with all due respect. So I think Baltimore will have an easier time getting to the World Series. So maybe they can set up their pitching matchups a little bit better. But I got to make a decision. I have to make a decision. So drum roll. The 2024 World Series champions, for the first time in 41 years, the Baltimore Orioles will win the World Series. They will take down the evil, dreaded Los Angeles Dodgers in 7 games. Now I want to hear from you guys. Let me know down below who wins the 2024 World Series and who's got the best chance of making the playoffs this year, the Pittsburgh Pirates or the Detroit Tigers. I think both of them have a pretty good shot to make it. I didn't pick either one of them, but let me know down below. And as always, Hit that dislike button if you like this video. Otherwise, see you next time. Happy opening day. Toodles.